open up to
that
you.
was a childhood thing that actually led me. जैसे होता नहीं है कि you have your class clown या you have someone different roles in a group of friends. तो मुझे psychologist of the group कहते थे.
अच्छा,
which was always the case.
आपको कभी जरूरत पड़ती है कि after just like getting your sessions
Of
done
course.
and everything? Really?
Of course. It's like, I mean, I'm a human being.
But what you think is you blame people at home and
Yes.
you start blaming
yes.
friends
Yes.
for them not being understanding of
Yes.
this because it gets very confusing for you to realize.
अब बंदा अपने आप को कैसे बोले कि I'm pissed off at my boss, you know, for example. But when you sit down, तो actually there are many things about the situation you can't control. But जब आप actually बैठ के सोचते हैं, फिर you can focus on, अच्छा इस situation में मैं चले उन्हें तो कुछ नहीं कह सकता, but what can I do? And मैं हंसती इसलिए हूँ because लोग मुझे हमेशा देख के ऐसे देखते हैं कि यार, क्योंकि वो वाकई में उन्हें यही लगता है कि ये तो मेरी अम्मी मुझे कहती हैं.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of QuickChat and आज हमारे साथ एक बहुत special guest हैं. We have Eimaan Yacob, who is a clinical psychologist and she has her own private practice as well. और मैं चाहूँगा कि introduction यही दें. So thank you so much Eimaan for taking the time out और आप यहाँ पे आई.
Thank you Nauman, it's my pleasure, honestly.
क्या बात है. So Eimaan, why don't you start by telling something about yourself, your practice.
Right.
ठीक है.
So I'm a clinical psychologist by the name, my own private practice has the name the Willow Tree. I also the willow trees are very resilient. That's where the idea basically came from.
Automatically connect हो जाता है.
हाँ, it's also very nurturing, nature, you know, growth, healing, of course, the usual stuff that everyone goes for. Also, but I love trees, like the willow tree, which would gira hota na, it's beautiful. But so I have a private practice, and then I also counsel kids in school. So I go to different schools, different branches. So they've termed it the mental health counselor, which mental health.
अगर आप माइंड ना करें हम थोड़ी सी हिस्ट्री में जाते हैं.
Oh yes, yes.
Because Eimaan she also takes sessions here at the Quick office. इनकी practice में we've like opened it up for all our members. कि if you want to book a session with Eimaan, you can just email Eimaan and be like, अच्छा मुझे session
or go to the receptionist directly.
Or go to the receptionist.
Yep.
So होता क्या है कि we run into each other at the office as well. ठीक है. I'm busy mostly taking care of some sort of upgradation that is happening in the facility. तो इस वजह से ईमान और मेरी बहुत discussions होती हैं. So एक history भी है ईमान की बहुत interesting. वो ये कि ईमान, let's talk about के other than the fact that you're actually a professional in this regard.
Yes.
आपने मुझे बड़े किस्से ऐसे बताए हुए हैं कि a lot of people find it very soothing, very बहुत लोगों को ना वो फील होता है कि नहीं यार ईमान से मैं मसला अपना डिस्कस कर लेता हूँ. People open up to
that
you.
was a childhood thing that actually led me. जैसे होता नहीं है कि you have your class clown या you have someone different roles in a group of friends. तो मुझे psychologist of the group कहते थे.
अच्छा,
which was always the case.
ये
बचपन से actually now that I think about it, I was going to say teenage years, but नहीं, pre-teens as well. Now that I think about
होता
it.
है हर there's this one person that you know कि यार you know I just have to vent. मैंने rant करनी है, चलो भाई इसको पकड़ो and be like हाँ भाई.
I mean, I think that one came to me naturally. I was very empathetic. बचपन से मुझे होता था कि मैं ये चीज़ बोलूँगी, how will the other person feel? And that's one of the backbones of being a psychologist, which is empathy.
Yeah.
So when you say ना कि everyone वैसे भी बात कर रहे होते हैं, people which you've experienced as well, actually, from your stories, जो मुझे पता है, is when you just give someone that understanding or that empathy, so people automatically feel it easier
Definitely.
to talk to you.
I think you just need to be a good listener for that. Mainly.
Yes.
So, अब knowing कि भाई when was that time कि आपने realize किया कि you know I can do this as a profession?
Well, my mother actually fell ill for a long time since my childhood, but there was a time in my teenage years, you're growing up, you're hormonal, you're also not sure of who you are, what you want to do, and then that was the time where she got very ill. So I actually had people counsel me. I got very depressed. she was very badly ill, seriously so. But I had people in my life, I was very fortunate, who gave me a lot of love and support and guidance. Therapy में कभी-कभार लोगों को एक ये डर लग रहा होता है कि पता नहीं therapy क्या चीज़ है. Of course,
there's something wrong with me.
Yes. एक तो वो taboo, which हालांकि nowadays in our culture we are overcoming it quite a bit with social media, a lot of awareness. एक तो everyone's using psychological terms आजकल, even maybe where they shouldn't, but they are. So the awareness is growing.
But I think that's a good thing in general, no?
Yes and no. It's sometimes like, for example, labeling someone. So wo kabhi-kabhar where they shouldn't is where they overuse something. Where they sometimes also, when we start studying psychology, every professor of mine, I studied here, then I studied in the States at Columbia, every single professor here and there, the first thing they say to you is, when you study and read these things and learn about them, ye nahi soch lena कि मुझे है ये चीज़ें, because you see symptoms or you see sort of चीज़ें. So आजकल everyone is, unfortunately, sometimes knowledge. I'm remembering a Spider-Man quote. With great knowledge,
interesting thing coming your way.
But it's true. With great power comes great responsibility, and that power generally comes from, a lot of power comes from knowledge. And with knowledge, if you use that knowledge wisely, it's great. But sometimes that's where it's misused. And nowadays, unfortunately, where you get too much knowledge too soon, when you don't truly know what it means, everyone then starts feeling like they're depressed. I'm not saying that people aren't. Nowadays, we're living in a very unnatural world. Which causes a lot of actually issues, which is why there's also a rise in the need of awareness for mental health. So usme where I say sometimes people overuse, certain things can't be beneficial, but at the same time, it's making us more aware.
Definitely.
These things are needed, and there's nothing wrong with actually focusing on mental health or reaching out for help as well.
Definitely. And I don't know, I might be wrong, इसलिए you're here to, basically guide us and enlighten us. तो मुझे ये बात बताएं कि जब हम mental health की बात करते हैं, I don't know why, सबसे पहले मेरे दिमाग में आता है self care. Like you should exactly, like it's good to realize care, mental health कितनी important है हमारे लिए. Because मैंने खुद बहुत दफ़ा ये feel किया. Like I was like, oh no, I can't have a label that I'm seeing a therapist. Oh, there's something severely wrong with me. मेरा तो दिमाग ही ठीक नहीं है. Maybe I'm not, उस तरीके से वहाँ पे. So why don't you थोड़ी सी आप light डालें on self care? How important is self care?
क्या बात की आपने, like that is so important. You've hit the nail on the head. Actually, mental health, actually, when we talk about health in general, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, अपनी बात कर रहे होते हैं ना, तो वो शुरू भी अपने आप से ही होता है. Where it starts from the self. कि self care में actually is catered to each individual. Each individual, इतना फ़र्क होते हैं, हमारी पसंद की चीज़ें फ़र्क होती है, the way we relax, the way we process emotions, सबका इतना फ़र्क होता है कि self care is also very different for everyone. But very general चीज़ें जो मैं कह सकती हूँ do apply to everyone में आ जाता है कि where do you draw your boundaries? Where do you take try and boundary से मेरा क्या मतलब कि ये time अगर मेरा time है, if this is my personal time, this is my personal time. If this is my work, which is what we call the work and professional personal life balance as well. But कि सबसे बड़ी चीज़ हमारी self care में that's missing is just boundaries for the self, boundaries with other people, boundaries with your trusted cell phone, which goes with you हर जगह.
But that's easier saying, पता है. मुझे लगता है बैलेंस क्रिएट करना ये बहुत मुश्किल काम है.
But it's easier than the other alternative, और ये हम सोचते नहीं हैं. The other alternative is कि आपकी इतनी work life balance out हो जाए, work भी छोड़ें, any boundaries, any imbalance जब भी आ जाता है तो फिर क्या होता है? That's where it starts getting problematic. ना, that is where actually depression kicks in, anxiety kicks in. अच्छा, time नहीं है आपके पास अपनी चीज़. अब self care में obviously this is the first step. उसके बाद और भी बहुत चीज़ें आती हैं, which is you go watch the movie you want to watch, you go sleep healthy hours, you do the date night with your spouses, or you go out with your friends, or you spend time that actually makes you feel what? happy. अगर calm makes you feel happy, great. Calm भी ये ज़रूरी नहीं है. It's not a fixed solution. It's a different solution for every individual. But करना हम यही कह रहे थे. Sorry, आप बोले ये कि वो कहना आसान है, but the other options actually are much harder. But हम उतना आगे सोचते नहीं हैं.
To be very honest, मैं अगर अपनी बात करूँ, because आपकी बातें बहुत relatable है. The thing is कि even if I talk सिर्फ अपने बारे में सोचूं ना कि अच्छा यार ये इसलिए मैंने कहा कि करना मुश्किल है because you need to be very aware of what's affecting you because हो सकता है कि there's pressure on your mental health because of stress at work, toxic environment at work, but what you think is you blame people at home and you start blaming friends for them not being understanding and because it gets very confusing for you to realize. So I think it takes a lot of conscious effort कि आप बैठें सोचें what is the core issue.
Mindfulness.
Exactly.
A lot of mindfulness.
That's the word, mindfulness.
Which is actually what therapy में हम one of the basic चीजें is also. आज हम बात सारी basic ही कर रहे हैं obviously कि self care, mindfulness. कि why are we feeling what we're feeling? या also ये भी लोग भूल जाते हैं mindfulness में ये भी आ जाता है कि why are we doing what we're doing? कि मैं अपनी ज़िंदगी में चाहे ये काम भी कर रहा हूँ तो क्यों कर रहा हूँ? ये मैं अब ये चीज़ कर रही हूँ, I'm spending time here क्यों कर रही हूँ? Sometimes we just go on life बस एक चीज़ के बाद एक चीज़ हम सोचते नहीं हैं why? उधर क्या आ जाता है? Mindfulness. So yes, okay, mindfulness, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Is it my family that's upsetting me? Is it the work? Is it that I'm stressed out because this is a path I laid down for myself? This is the life I thought I would have. This is how I thought it would be going. And it's not going that way. I can go on and on. Anji, sorry.
So, आपने यही चीज़ बताई. अब मुझे ये बात बताएं कि when you deal with, I don't know, आप उन्हें clients कहें, when you listen to people, how easy is it for you to sort of tell the other person कि तुम्हारी ज़िंदगी में ये मसला है just by hearing whatever they have to say? ये क्या? What is this trick? How do you basically आप कैसे identify कर लेते हो कि इस बंदे को मसला है? Because I don't know. अगर कोई आपसे बात कर रहा है, you're just into this conversation and finally he or she tells you about ये मेरे मसले मसाइल हैं ज़िंदगी में, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I'm doing this, and of course you will have a series of questions and you will direct the conversation and सारा कुछ.
It is more.
How do you pinpoint किस बंदे का मसला क्या है? Because I'm pretty sure लोगों को नहीं पता हो शायद कि उनके ज़िंदगी में क्या मसला है. How do you find that out?
काफ़ी दफ़ा actually you'd be surprised, many people also know, and they generally Pakistan में at least they come to therapy when they know they need help, when they know कि एक stage इतनी आ गई होती है. We don't turn to therapy in Pakistan as of yet earlier on. We turn towards therapy जब हमारी काफ़ी दफ़ा ज़िंदगी में बस हो गई होती है. तो many times तब तक people have been through so much in their own mind that you'd be surprised they can identify many times. But जहाँ नहीं होता identify, उधर obviously psychology and therapy is more structured. The way I'm asking, it's like a conversation. It's like a conversation you and I are having. I wish I could explain all the training में जो सीखा है कि आप कैसे identify करते हैं what
ईमान
problem.
हमें नहीं बताना चाहती.
मैं अगर
She doesn't want to reveal her skill.
No, I wish I could actually, because then people would actually be able to help themselves. आजकल वो that's the goal now of therapy. नहीं, but it's more structured questions. It's more structured, and eventually you get it out. And it's not my job actually to tell them what is wrong, but rather to bring them at that point of realizing themselves कि अच्छा जी ये है. हालांकि अगर मुझे नजर भी आ रहा हो, but it's otherwise वो तो हो गया ना कि आपकी family में.
So you have to basically tell the other person कि अच्छा you figured this out, you have it.
No, it's not that simple कि you figure. अभी बेचारे फिर वो मेरे पास क्यों आ रहे हैं?
वही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ, तुम्हारी trick क्या है?
It's not a trick. That's the thing. It's mindful conversation. Where again the word mindful comes in. It's mindful conversation of sometimes they need help in breaking it down. Okay, if this was the event, let's talk about it, but let's break it down. You also, what you do is you give them a safe environment. Usually when we're going through these things and these experiences in our day-to-day life, a lot is happening साथ-साथ. In therapy, what is it? It's a safe environment. आप एक safe जगह में बैठे हुए हैं, आपके पास एक person है जो आपको judge नहीं कर रहा, who is there purely to help you and help you in whatever you want actually. So उसमें what we do is we open the mind. Sometimes we do a lot of practices and exercises beforehand, whether it's to calm down, whether it's to relax. Then we systematically also break down the problem. What is the problem? What's brought you here today? And also, what is your goal? Or generally, what would you want? Kabhi kabhi nahi pata hota what's the goal. But what would you want to come out of therapy? कि अगर आप आए हैं, आप क्या चाहते हैं? And then we start breaking it down. But that's why it takes time. That's why therapy is not a you come and ji ek din mein we figured it out wala thing. Sometimes that is the case, very rarely. But that's why therapy also takes time.
Here's another question, क्योंकि of course when you're discussing all of these things, it is quite, मतलब मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि even though I don't do this professionally, लेकिन दोस्तों में बैठ के when somebody is telling you something really tragic and they're just wanting you to listen, all that listening can get very very heavy. You're like, ठीक है, it kind of like I think it takes a toll on you as well. So you tell me कि आपको कभी ज़रूरत पड़ती है कि after just like getting your sessions done?
Of course.
Really?
Of course. It's like, I mean, I'm a human being. But usme obviously, it's, again, when you're training for psychology, when you're learning everything, I was very lucky that I had very good professors जिन्होंने ये drill अंदर किया हुआ था कि you have to apply all of these things to yourself as well. You have to engage in self-care, and self-care more than usual generally, and not just therapists but any profession that is आजकल unfortunately every profession is filled with stress.
Oh, definitely.
That's unfortunately जो मैं कह रही थी कि we live in a very unnatural world. अब हम लोगों ने बस कर दिया कि जो stressful नहीं भी थी ना चीज़ हम बना लेते हैं. Unfortunately, that's a slightly negative thing I said, but it's unfortunately आजकल I also have to be realistic कि अगर ये है फिर ही हम इसके बारे में कुछ कर सकते हैं. If I call it for what it is. So every job and every stressful job requires you to engage in more self-care. What does that self-care mean for me? It's different things. But then as a therapist, sometimes I also need to unload on someone. And that's where your mentor or your therapist, or sometimes you can go once a month, sometimes you can go once every few months. Kabhi kabar personal life mein you can talk to people, but obviously a therapist ka ye sabse badi cheez hoti hai confidentiality. I can never reveal personal or identifying factors about anyone. So usme that's where a mentor or a therapist comes as well. But uske liye
I'm sure
a lot of putting my AirPods in, locking my room and just dancing works a lot actually.
That's fun therapy.
It is actually. That's what we do a lot of times with my clients as well. Sometimes it's small things. Acha therapy mein ye bhi bade log surprise hote hain. A lot of my clients कि sometimes I ask them to make very small changes in life, and log वो समझते हैं कि ये क्या बात हुई, मैं therapy के लिए
like give me an example. What is a small change?
Fixing your sleep.
This year like any mother, any brown mother would be like, beta time
and you'd be surprised. Actually, I've had clients जो महीने नहीं किया, and then eventually जाके I do sometimes, I'll be honest, sound a little bit like a mother ke, and how about let's try also implementing this into our routine, where you don't realize the world of a difference it makes on our feelings and our emotions and our hormones. Honestly speaking, हमारी feelings हमारी body से बाहर नहीं है. I love saying this to my students, where I ask them कि हमारी जो feelings हैं, anything we're feeling, हमारी body के अंदर है या बाहर है? They're within us. So when you'd be surprised, you take care of your health and sleep, your emotions, the body and the mind has a bi-directional relationship, which means किसी दिन अगर आपकी तबीयत ख़राब है फिज़िकली, आप वैसे ही चिड़चिड़े हो जाते हैं लोगों के साथ. एंड किसी दिन you're physically perfectly fine, but you've had a bad day at work. आपके सर में दर्द शुरू हो जाती है, आपके shoulders में आपको feel होने लग जाता है. Sometimes in the stomach, what's happening? The body is affecting the mind is affecting the body. So the first thing that actually really, really works जब आपकी बस हुई होती है is fixing your sleep. एंड मैं हंसती इसलिए हूँ बिकॉज लोग मुझे हमेशा देख के ऐसे देखते हैं कि यार, क्योंकि वो वाकई में उन्हें यही लगता है कि ये तो मेरी अम्मी मुझे कहती हैं. बट एंड फिक्सिंग स्लीप डजंट मीन स्लीपिंग मोर. इट मीन्स एक्चुअली जो आपकी एज के हिसाब से द स्लीप योर बॉडी रिक्वायर्स, उससे ज़्यादा भी अगर कर दें तो देन पीपल स्टार्ट गोइंग डाउन डिप्रेशन.
अच्छा ईमान, वन अदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. मुझे ये बात बताएं कि जनरली आई थिंक यू well, anybody who's working, he or she spends a lot of time at their workplace.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think, आप क्या मुझे बता सकती हैं, are there ways कि you can be more aware of identifying toxic environments at work? What are those things that you can do to be more aware of कि अच्छा, now these are stressful situations that I can avoid. ठीक है, I think identifying जो है ना can be, I don't know, I assume it's a very good solution कि आप सबसे पहले तो आप identify करना तो शुरू करें. This is exactly what's stressful for me.
जब पता चलेगा कि ये हो रहा है, then हम उसके बारे में कुछ कर सकते हैं ना, only then.
So can you talk about maybe things you can do, or what methods are there to be more aware of what can be stressful?
Of talks, the first is just asking कि अच्छा अगर मैं अभी irritate हुआ हूँ तो sometimes taking just those 5 minutes of okay, why am I irritated right now? असल में problem एक ये भी है, no one nowadays, I say no one, I shouldn't generalize like that, but majority of the times हम बैठ के ये नहीं सोचते why am I actually, that's called self-reflection. Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? कि अच्छा जी अभी मैं ऑफिस में आई हूँ, मैं किसी चीज़ से इरिटेट होके ना I'm being curt with you or I'm being annoyed with you, and लोग कह रहे हैं कि यार क्या है. That's the best moment to be like, okay, hold on, I need to go wash my face, have a sip of water, take 5 minutes to be like वाकई में हम कहते हैं नहीं कुछ नहीं हुआ यार, and we just move on with the day.
Big deal नहीं होती तब, you're not
if you're being irritable, why? And the best thing, I mean, it's so different for every situation. How do you identify what it is? When you actually sit down with yourself for just a few minutes and ask yourself why. We ourselves know ourselves, did that sentence a bit grammatically incorrect, but हम अपने आप को सबसे ज़्यादा बेहतर जानते हैं. बट हम कभी कभार वो चीज़ बोलना नहीं चाहते. Why? Because it's a difficult situation. अब बंदा अपने आप को कैसे बोले कि I'm pissed off at my boss, you know, for example. But when you sit down, तो actually there are many things about the situation you can't control. But जब आप actually बैठ के सोचते हैं, फिर you can focus on, अच्छा इस situation में मैं चले उन्हें तो कुछ नहीं कह सकता, but what can I do? So what you start dividing, when I do this with my kids in school, कि when you're upset about something, आप क्या करेंगे? First of all, you're going to ask yourself a question. The thing I'm upset, आप किस चीज़ पे upset हैं? इस चीज़ पे मैं upset हूँ? Is this something I can control or something I can't control? If it's something you can control, तो excellent, आपको पता चल जाता है आपका next step क्या है, कि you can control it, ये चीज़ आपने ज़्यादा करनी है, कम करनी है, boundary कहाँ draw करनी है, that's a big one, even at work, which I'll come back to. Two, if it's something you can't control, तो then there's no point उस चीज़ पे पिटने के बारे में.
क्यों फिर stress क्यों ले रहे हो उसके ऊपर?
So no, then let's now look for उससे related चीज़ें कि इसमें ये I can't control, what can I? So then you start shifting your focus from things in life, your work maybe, your personal life maybe, things, if I can't move this wall, this window, मैं push करती जाऊँ, क्या फ़ायदा होना है मुझे? मैं अपने आप को literally, अगर मैं, if I keep walking into a wall,
wasting energy.
Exactly. So I shift my focus from trying to go out through here, and I look for a path out in a different way. So at work, first of all, take 5 minutes when you're irritable to just ask yourself why. and then we shift the focus to what we need to do.
I think that's a very good tip क्योंकि मैंने देखा है बहुत से ऐसे incidents होते हैं where you're just at work, you know, somebody pisses you off, कोई ऐसी चीज़ होती है, ठीक है, ये मसले आई थिंक हर कंपनी में होता है, हर टीम में होता है, कम्युनिकेशन में मसला हो गया, कोऑर्डिनेशन में मसला हो गया, एवरीबडी एट वर्क इज रेडी टू पॉइंट फिंगर्स कि इसका मसला है, उसका मसला है, एंड होता क्या है एट द एंड देयर आर थिंग्स दैट आर बेसिकली क्या कर रहे होते हैं, दे आर पिसिंग यू ऑफ, आप उसकी वजह से इरिटेबल भी होते हो, यू हैव दीज मूड स्विंग्स, यू हैव लाइक दिल तो कुछ और ही कर रहा होता है, मुझे कोई चीज़ मिले मैं अपना गुस्सा निकालूं, बट आई थिंक द बेस्ट वे इज कि as soon as you think कि ओह
मैं हो रहा हूँ,
मैं अब इफेक्ट होना शुरू हो गया, आई थिंक that's a time when you'll be like wait a second, give me 5 minutes, I'll go outside, relax,
think about what is it that's actually bothering you, and then I love that you said communication, then that's the next step now where you then come and communicate once you're calmer.
Yeah, definitely. क्योंकि वर्क में बहुत सी ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं सिंस क्योंकि we're not able to identify, number one, people are not aware, उसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि the communication उसके बाद जो follow करती है ना, that is mostly you just do not have control over how destructive it can be.
One thing that's really missing at work actually is people don't realize कि अगर आप बात सही भी कर रहे होते हैं, even if you're in the right, but you're talking irritably to the person in front of you, उनका दिमाग बंद हो गया automatically. तो आपने actually अगर अपना काम करवाना है या you want your message to get across, again you need those 5 minutes to calm down, come and tell them in a manner उस तरीके से जो actually आपका फ़ायदा होगा, rather than आप बस लड़ रहे हैं कि जी, and आप सही भी हैं, बात ये भी है कि you're also in the right, but फ़ायदा क्या होना है when you're being irritable and then they're being irritable आगे से.
And then that's sort of like
a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
कि चलो भाई अब यहाँ पे आज किसी का ना हम कुछ किसी का तोड़ के ही जाएंगे.
Unfortunately. Right. But ऐसी
अच्छा हो गया मैं? चलो.
Okay.
अच्छा. So now that we've covered mental health हो गई, self-awareness, and I think it is very important. I would like to say one thing. When we look at workspaces now, flexible workspace का concept is very popular. ठीक है, people are now much more informed कि हमें काम कैसे करना है, where do we choose to work from, what do we need, and everything. So उसमें जहाँ तक हम इतनी attention to वो जो हम जितनी detail में काम कर रहे हैं ना इसमें, in creating spaces which can be like very they can help increase your efficiency, they're user friendly, and
productive,
designing spaces to be more productive, you know, you're making spaces jahan pe you can network, meet people, so and so. I think you also, it is very important aapki discussion ke baad na, I think it is very important for us to basically realize that we are spending literally an easy 70% of time जो हम गुजारते हैं while being awake, we're at the workplace. And being at the workplace, we need to treat ourselves, we need to be aware, we need to stay away from toxic work cultures.
Yes.
We need to identify these things. And definitely, firstly, you need to resort to self-care.
Oh, absolutely. And self-care के अंदर, sorry, I do want to add कि boundaries आपकी ज़रूर आ जाती हैं कि अब अगर मेरी बस हो रही है या for example, if you are running out of that battery or that charge that you need, that energy, that patience, so take a few breaks.
Definitely.
It's okay. That's why we create these kind of work environments now where you can take a break for a bit. You can sit outside, you can chill, you can go play a little badminton, come back.
Definitely.
Which is self-care.
The thing is, I would also like to tell our viewers that one of the very, मुझे ये initiative आपका बहुत अच्छा लगा, that you're finally क्या कहते हैं, organizing, ईमान जो है organize कर रही हैं talks, workshops and sessions at Quick Office, where we will definitely welcome all of our members to come and join, ताकि ये और आपको बता सके कि भाई how to basically work towards mental health, ठीक है? and good luck with that.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being a part of this podcast. We will definitely have more discussions.
Yes, absolutely.
In front of the camera.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, guys.